Welcome, everyone. My name is Amanda Bass, and this is part 2 of the Advanced Canva workshop. You do not have to have seen or participated in part 1 for you to be able to use what I'm going to go over in this presentation. However, if what you see here is not enough for you, I encourage you to go to the part 1 and go through some of those advanced techniques. And if you have any questions, please send them to Elena and she could forward them to me, or she can connect us one-on-one. You will receive a copy of this in your email with the recording of the presentation as well as the slides. So you don't have to worry if you miss anything. I will be using Canva on my desktop. I prefer that over the app. I am not a pro in the app, and I personally find it pretty difficult to use. So everything I do is on the desktop. You are more than welcome to follow along in your Canva account. And if you have any questions, we'll have some opportunity for Q&A. Pop your questions in the chat. I'll try to check on them often. And then in between, we'll take little breaks. I'll come on camera and we can have a conversation about anything that you'd like to discuss further. So without further ado, we're going to begin. Please keep yourselves on mute unless you're asking a question, just to minimize background. So we at the SBDC exist to train, educate, and support entrepreneurs of both new, pre-venture, and established small businesses. We're positioned within a nationwide network of SBDCs. We offer resources, key connections at the state and national level, workshops such as this one, and online and in-person support that equips us to help Ocean State entrepreneurs reach the next level of growth. I'm super biased. We have an incredible team here, so I encourage you, if there's any area of your business that you'd like to work on, please reach out and we'll be happy to connect you with the appropriate counselor. Quick background on me. My name is Amanda Bass, and I am a marketing educator. I train businesses, marketing departments on how to be better marketers. This can be anything from paid marketing strategy, SEO, funnel hacking, email marketing. I serve and I come into your business and train the people on your team, or you, if you're a solopreneur, how to be better marketers. So we are going to begin. We're going to begin. Going to jump right in. The way this workshop is going to work is I'm going to come into Canva and show you how to do these things. And then that way you get more hands-on. I did also link, as you can see, to every part has a video or a tutorial where you could go and read how to do it on your own, in case you're not the type who likes to rewatch a whole webinar. So first we're going to do animate. And let's begin with the Instagram post. I like the Instagram post size. It's a perfect square and it just makes it easier. You can use this technique in anything you want. So we'll start basic. And then if you click on any one element, you could see there's an animate button, or if you click on as a whole. So if you wanted it to animate the entire post or image, or you could say, I actually only want to animate that part. So you're able to animate everything, give it some movement. You know, you can play around with how you do it, the direction of the movement. You can also play with the way it pops. You know, do you want it to fade? Do you want it to pan? There's all different ways to animate. And this works nicely if, you know, especially on social media, movement, GIFs, videos work really well to interrupt your scroll. So if you're able to add some movement, it really does make a difference. So, and then if you decide that you don't like where you're going, you just come to the bottom and remove animation. Number 2, translate. This one is really cool. It's a new-ish feature on Canva. Where did my design go? Okay, there we go. So, and you can do this. It doesn't have to be a social media post. You could do this in any, you know, presentation, whiteboards, workbooks, anything you create in Canva. What you do is click on the text and then come over to File. And then there should be a thing for translate. And of course, now I'm not going to find it because I'm on live with you. But let's see. Go down to apps and then translate. And then you can translate into any language. So, you know, if you want to highlight this and then translate it right in your language. And then it'll automatically translate for you. And then a word of caution is this is great if you operate in more than one market, right? Like your ideal client is speaks more than one language. I would say the caveat is always double check the translations, because even with like a Google Translate or a translating platform, there are some nuances in how people naturally speak. So make sure you're editing and just making sure that everything makes sense. And then I will also say that this is a great task if you do have a marketing team and you want somebody to do this translation for you and then send it to your desk to edit. This is a great way to, like, a great task you can hand off to someone to allow things to be removed from your plate. And it's easier than going into a translate tool, copy and pasting. You create your design and then you can translate it. So it's super easy to use. They offer like, I think it's like 50 plus languages. And then if you're a free user, you can translate up to 50 pages. And if you are a pro user or a paid user, you can translate 50 pages per month. So there is a limit to how many you can do on the free platform, but it's a great tool to translate. All right, Magic Write. So this is really cool. I'm not sure if everyone's keeping up with the whole revolution with AI and AI content creation, but this is a really fun one from Canva. And the way it works is when you open up a doc on Canva, hit the plus sign and then hit Magic Write, and then you could have it create almost anything for you. So this is really great if you're trying to come up with content ideas or blog post ideas or an email marketing newsletter idea and you're kind of stuck. So you could say, you know, 20 tips to writing better emails. And then you just type it in, hit enter, and then it'll come up with automatically generated ideas. And then you could use this two ways. You could use it, one, to improve how you're doing things, right? Like if you needed to figure out how to write better emails, or you could say, I want to give me 10 headlines about writing better emails. And then it'll come up with headlines for you. So you could really use this in an abundance of ways. And it makes, I mean, you just see we came up with how to write better emails and headlines about writing better emails in like under a minute. So this is a really cool tool. And I encourage you to use this when you're thinking about creating content and you get that roadblock, to go in and just push through and use the AI component of Canva. It's really cool. Okay, so Magic Edit. So this one is fun. If you come in, let's do again an Instagram post, because I really love my Instagram sizes, as we said. So let's find something that we want to edit out or we want to exchange. I find this works better when you know what you're looking for, and say, for example, like they have a good example. And when you log into Canva, at the top part of your screen, they'll have all of the new features lined out. But this is an example for creating a flower. So this is great if you find images you like, but you don't love. And if you wish you could swap out things to make them more aligned with your brand, or more aligned with your aesthetic. So it's really simple to use. where you're basically brushing over what you want to swap out, and you can change the brush size accordingly. And I tend to like to go a little bit smaller just so I'm not like over brushing a ton of things. And you highlight the image that you want to swap out. And then you come over here and hit continue, and then say you want a yellow rose. You type in the image you want, and then you hit generate, and then it'll pop up 4 options for you. And then you can decide and click through and see which one you like better. So if you decide that, you know, an image isn't perfect and you wish it had this, this is a good opportunity for you to switch out something, an element of your Canva design. And you could use this not only in social media posts, but presentations and pretty much everything across the board in Canva. So magic presentations, this is really cool because how many of us have needed to create a presentation and we're just completely stuck and we're like, you know what, like I have no idea where to begin. So if we begin, you can use magic presentations right here and try it out. And then it will prompt you on what to do. So for example, say I needed to create a presentation on 10 advanced design hacks in Canva. And then it will not only create the content of the presentation for you, but it will create a layout as well. And you can come through and pick which one you like the best, and you can click through them and see what they look like. And you're like, oh, actually, I like this one better. And then you can pick whatever you want. And then when you hit create presentation, it creates the whole thing for you. Like the content, it creates everything. And you can do this on pretty much any topic. And so you'll see that some of these are really good, like the transparency tool, customizing fonts. If you get this and you're like, actually, we need to go a little deeper, you can always, everything here is editable. You know, you could edit images, you can edit, you know, text, and you can customize it to be more aligned with what you want to present. So for example, some of these is some of the things we covered in the first advanced Canva presentation, right? Like creating your own brand kit and color palette. I don't think we did the resize, but we did work on layers. So there, it does give really quality content back. It's not going to be a thing where you can, where you could enter information for a presentation and then it's hands off and you pass it on or present it. You are going to have to make some edits, but this does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So you're not constantly in that creation mode, and you're able to save some time that you're able to invest in other areas of your business. So we're going to take a quick break and answer some questions. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat and then we'll get those answered before we move on. Any questions? All right. So draw. This is a sort of new feature, but not, let's just go into the one that we're already in. So say you wanted to draw a shape, and this is something that someone asked about in the last presentation about being able to draw and write on your slides or your social media posts. Sometimes it makes it easier to be able to say, come in and write. So say you wanted to do a line here. This is an easier way to do it, and you can customize your colors. You can use your brand kit if you have your brand colors in here. And you can also customize the size and transparency of your line. So say you wanted something a little bit thicker. Say you wanted something a little less opaque. This is a good way versus coming into Elements and sometimes finding exactly what you're looking for. You know, you could spend a lot of time going through and looking for lines, but if you know exactly what you want and you're comfortable drawing, this is an easy way to go in and use this draw feature without having to search through Elements to be able to mock up an image or a presentation exactly as you like. If I can just have everyone on mute, that would be great. Next, we're going to talk about Magic Eraser. And this is really great in companion with this magic edit that we learned up here. This is an easy way to remove elements from your design. So if you see something in a template and you're like, like I like this, but if it didn't have this, it would be perfect. So let's see if I could. This was working really well when I was looking at like home design stuff, because sometimes when I'm doing mock-ups for like a home office type of thing, sometimes things are just a little bit off and you're like, I love that if it didn't have this. So we'll just pick one of these, let's say this, and then what we'll do is say we just want to be like, oh, I love this image, but I want to remove, say the lamp in this image, right? Like if this was like, if you're like, this image would be perfect if it didn't have this, right? So then you could just do that. So you just want to click on an image and then edit photo, and then come over to Magic Eraser. Now this is a paid feature, so if you have a free version, you're not going to be able to use this. But the Magic Edit is in beta for all users, but the Magic Eraser is, what happened? So, okay, I was like, what was that? So then for this, I tend to go, and you can adjust your brush size a little bit smaller, just so I can kind of get exactly covered, especially with something like thin like this. And you just go over. And the trick is to not lift up your mouse the entire time. So if you're erasing something kind of big, and you lift your mouse too soon, sometimes it won't erase the whole thing, which can be annoying. And then when you lift up your mouse, it'll automatically remove the element from your image. So you can see it's still left a little trace of this. So then we just go through, and then you can go through and edit your image as you'd like. So we remove that lamp. And this is great if you have an image that you like almost everything, but you just want to edit it a tiny bit. This is great for doing that. And as you can see, sometimes you have to go over something a little bit extra, but it did keep those shadows, as you could see, intact and didn't make it wonky. And for a lot of users, the hesitation with using Canva is that some of these design elements, such as erasing and editing, weren't available, but they were available in Photoshop. So there was a hesitation for people to stop using Canva, stop using Photoshop and switch to Canva. But with these new tools, you now are able to do more of your design and editing in one platform, which is the goal of Canva. Batch create. All right. I hope you're ready to kind of put some of these things together and really take it to the next level. So one of the things I often talk about is batch creating your content, right? And that's like creating, a week, 2, 3, 4 weeks of content in one shot, instead of constantly being tied to creating content daily. So this is going to be a little bit of a longer process, but stick with me. It's really cool. Okay. So first we're going to start with creating that magic write, where we're going to come up with content. So we're going to do magic write, and we're going to say 20 tips to use Canva to design social media graphics. And then once this generates, and say you're looking through here and you're like, I'm not really liking this. You can just come down here and add a little bit more. So you could say 20 quotes on using Canva to design social media graphics. Make sure you spell everything right. and then it'll generate more. So get this to where you want it to be, and you can even use a hybrid, some of those. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight and copy these, right? So you just highlight all of these. And then what you're going to do is you're going to come into either a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet, and you're just going to paste those in there. And then let's name this. Let's remember what so when it downloads, we can find it. And then you're going to file and download as a CSV. This is very important. So you're going to download this as a CSV. And then you see it'll download right here for you. So then you're going to come up to Canva and let's create some posts. So we'll do the social media because it's a square and I like the square. And then let's type in here, and you can use this for anything, but I find it works really well for tips, because then you can the goal is to copy and paste this. So what we're going to do is we are going to highlight all of this. And this is where it's going to get a little bit, just follow along, right? So we're going to come over to apps. And then what we're going to do is we are going to look for something that is going to, we're going to connect that CSV file with the content we just created in the magic, right? So we're going to come down to here and we're going to look for bulk edit. And I used it recently, so it should be on top, but of course I don't see it, but we can type it in. Of course, now it's not going to find it, but it's in here somewhere. So let's see. Oops. So we're going to look for bulk edit. And if you see it before I do, just shout. I see it now. We're not looking for charts. We're looking for a thing that says bulk. Nope. All right, give me a moment so I could find this. And if you were with me last time, you remember we had some issue last time finding something, then we found it at the last minute. Make sure it's not down here. Bulk. So it's not in apps anymore. It's in bulk create. See? So find something that says bulk create, bulk edit. And then you have two options. You can enter the data manually. And what that will do is it'll pull up these tables for you. And then you can enter in your own content. Or you could upload a CSV, which is what we just did. So was that today, 10:28? So let's do the 10:30 yesterday. No. So this is the one we just created. So let's open that. And then what we do is we'll highlight what we want to create. And this is where it can be a little bit weird because sometimes you have to click back and forth a little bit. So what we want is to automatically identify and replace those 20 tips we came up with into these things so we can bulk create content without having to go. So the old way we would have to do it is you would have to duplicate, copy, paste, and replace this text, right? So what we want to do is remove that heavy lifting. And then what we're going to do. So we are going to use this one. And for some reason, it's not highlighting. So we connected the data and this should highlight for the thing. So let's try this again. We uploaded our CSV and then we're looking for something that says assign data, but I can't find it. Make sure it's not down here. Go back, upload. And you got to have a little bit of patience with this. One field identified, and let's just confirm that that CSV file looks good because it's looking like it's not wanting to upload. This is the And then while I'm doing this, I will answer the question in the chat. Does Canva work well with drawing tablets like Wacom? I'm not familiar what that is. Vishrali, if you want to come off mute and explain that, what you mean, I'm not familiar with that platform or what drawing a tablet means. So if you want to come off, we can discuss that.
Hi, so it's like this, you can use it
I
instead
can't
of a
hear
mouse.
you. If you could turn up your volume a little bit.
Okay, hold on. Oh, my volume is at maximum. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I can increase it even more. Hi, so it's like a tablet, which you can also use as a mouse. So it gives you more control. So when you were erasing that stuff, like artists use it to do illustrations, and I was using it to do online teaching. So you can write with it. So it has a stylus, and the stylus can also function like a mouse. So if that works, your editing thing will be much easier than doing it with a mouse. That's why I asked that question.
Got you. So I'm not familiar with that platform, but the only capability I know that's available in Canva is when you are able to like adjust the size of the brush. You're also able to do the replace, which we did with the flower. But as far as like more in detail design, if you have an image that you want to replace something with, you could do that. So if you upload your own images and want to swap out, for example, when I removed that light fixture, if you were a lighting fixture designer and you wanted to swap it out with your custom lighting, like you loved everything else in the background, but you wanted to add your custom lighting fixture, you could do that with the replace, magic replace, but I'm not sure about the capabilities beyond
Right.
that.
Yeah, no, this is not a software. This is more like a hardware that you attach to your computer, either with a USB or Bluetooth or something. I just downloaded the drivers for it to see whether it works with Canva. So I may have an answer to that for you, but it wants me to restart my computer, which I don't want to do.
Oh, okay. We don't want that. We don't want you to restart, not in the middle of a thing anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So I can report later what happened. Does it work? I
Okay.
think it may work. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what that software does, but I'm not familiar with it, so I can't give a clear answer.
Yeah. No worries. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can you answer the question regarding plagiarism? Yes, so you do have to review everything it comes out with, because since it basically is a scrub from the internet, but overall, let's go back to the thing, like some of these, like when you're coming down here and you have the quotes, they're all attributed to whoever created them, but some of these up here are more generic. So the plagiarism is a bigger thing when it comes to things like writing complete blog posts or articles. Then I would say to use that as a starting point, and then you can always edit like tone, target demographic and things like that. So I wouldn't recommend writing longer form content and then just copy and pasting it onto your website. I would definitely do some editing, making sure you're not using it straight from AI, because if 50 people are typing in the same thing, they're going to get very similar results, and then there's going to be a ton of duplicate content online. There are some platforms that you copy and paste the text into them, and then it can tell you how much of it is directly taking from someone else's work. That's where a lot of students are getting in trouble at school, right? Because they're using AI to write papers, and then they're just basically plagiarizing long form content. But for shorter form content like this is kind of basic stuff. You could always, like when you come into this thing and you have your you copied it into here, you could always edit all of these, choose the right template size for your platform that you're designing for. Like you could go in and edit each of these before you save it, but that's a great question. All right, so I am going to pause the recording so I could find this.
As you didn't.
Okay, so the way this works is you click over the entire box of the data versus what I was doing was highlighting the text. You don't want to do that. You want to actually click the whole grouping of the text and then right click and then do assign data. And why is it?
In that case, you choose none because there is no title, any title in the CVS file. So you choose none.
It's not clicking.
No. For some reason.
I'm gonna try another size thing. So let's go through. Tips. Go down to bulk create, upload the CSV. And you see now it highlighted continue. So then you hit continue, and then we want it to import all of the fields that we downloaded, and then hit generate 19 pages. And then you can see it updated and imported all of these 20 tips into the design and just updated each of these. So this is an easy way to be able to create batch content without having to go in and copy and pasting each thing, which that was a roller coaster to figure out, which you can see none of it is foolproof, but what we learned is highlight the entire images and then after you come down to bulk create. And then connect data is the language that was there when I was doing it. It was assign data. So you're looking for connect data or assign data and then uploading that CSV. Does that make sense now that we did troubleshooting on that? All right. So one-click presentation branding. Let's go here to presentations. And you could also, you see when you're doing presentations, the Magic Design does come up here. But say, for example, you're coming up and, you know, you want to design here, and then you want to look at the different layouts and styles. And then what you can do is you can either enter your brand colors here, or if you can come down and pick colors down here and look at different ways, and then it'll automatically update the presentation for you. And what I did find is it doesn't do the entire thing. So like say you want this one, just make sure you click through and just one click for the branding. So that's an easy way. If you're, you know, you find a presentation that you like the layout, but the coloring isn't exactly what you would like, then you can go down here and look at the different combinations. And this one will change the color and the fonts. And this one is just the color palettes. And then you can also say, you know, I like this color, but I don't want that font. You could come down here and say, I like this color, but let's do this font. And it'll change color or font depending on what you decide. And then you have the option to also come down here and apply to all pages. So instead of going through one by one, you can hit to all pages, and then same thing down here, apply to all pages. So you could do it one by one, or, you know, for consistency, I like to do apply to all pages, because then you don't have to worry about, you know, missing something or one or two pages having the wrong font. So creating a website. So Canva offers free one-page websites. So if you just type in here, website, And these are all the different templates that they have. You're also able to come down here by categories and say, you know, you want, you know, whatever category, say marketing. No, that's not that. This is categories, but I don't want it to be a business card. So come down here and say, like, you find one that you like. Let's see. Nice and simple. Let's click on this one. And then you hit customize template. You can come through and edit anything you want. So say, you know, you enter in your name, what you do, your own picture, and you can search for your own images, or you could like come to photos and say, you like this image. Oop. And then you can, you know, change all of these.
I love you, baby, too, too. I love you, baby, too,
Can we
too.
please go on mute? Thank you. And then what you do is you come here and go to publish website, and then it'll give you a couple of options. One, you want it to be able to resize on mobile. So if you unclick it, it will only like resize for desktops, but you always want to make sure everything's mobilely responsive. And then you do with navigation, without. I always recommend with navigation. You want people to be able to find what they're looking for easily. And then Canva will give you a free domain. You can purchase a domain through Canva, or then use your existing domain and then hit continue. Let's see. Let's do Amanda Bass. Hit continue. And then here is where you put in your SEO description. So SEO description, and this is what helps Google find you. So, you know, put in who you serve, what you do, your whole little elevator pitch. And then if you want it to be password protected, where people who have access to the password are exclusively able to view your website, this is that. And if you want to hide your website from search engines, and you may be wondering, why would you ever want to do that? And this is great. Like if you have a temporary offer and you're launching something, but say your open cart is only 10 days and you only want people to find it that have been given a direct invitation to your offer, or you don't want people to be able to go online and find a sale page that they're not being invited to. So if you have an invitation only sale, or if you have something that you don't want it listed on Google, just hide my website from Google search engines, and then Google won't list it. And then you hit publish, and you have your own quick little website that you're able to share with people. There are some downsides to this. One is, if we've worked together, you know that I'm a big fan of tracking. So sometimes the tracking and analytics on some of these free options is a little murky, right? Like you're not always able to add custom coding. The plus side of this is, if you're really struggling to get an online presence and you don't have the bandwidth to create a website and you need to get going while you create something, this is a great interim to be able to get your online presence up. And then while you're working on something a little bit more robust. And in the future, they might release capabilities for integrations to like Google Analytics and Facebook ads, but it's a great starting point and great for landing pages. So if you have, you know, if you're launching a product and you don't want to create a whole new page on your website, this is a great way to launch that and then send people to this. And then when the offer's done, you can, you know, unpublish, and then you don't have to worry about being found. PDF editing. So this is a really cool feature because you're able to edit PDFs. However, when I was coming in here and putting in edit PDFs, it didn't really find it for me. So what I found is, if you come over to the URL and you see how right now the backslash is search designs, and it goes on and on and on, right? I found if you just come in and then instead of that, you just put in the PDF editor, and let me find the exact link for you. I was just playing around with it. So it's just PDF-editor. I found this easier than going through and trying to find it in the actual thing. And I think if you like are home and you're playing around on the Canva thing, you might be able to find it here, but I was like looking and looking and looking, and it was kind of how I was going all around looking for that app thing. So I find it just easier to type in the /PDF editor, and then you upload your PDF. And then I was working on a image checklist for SEO. And so you upload your PDF. And then you can come in here and you can edit anything. So if you want to add, your branding, you want to bring it down here, change the colors, make it pink. And then you can come in and edit anything in here with, edit anything. It automatically picks up what fonts you're using, the spacing and everything. And it's a really easy way to edit PDFs without having to have an additional platform like a PDF editor. You can do it right here in Canva. And then when you're done, you hit the download, and then it'll give you your options, your PDF standard or for print. And then you're also able to do a JPEG or a PNG. I don't recommend that if you're doing a PDF, but sometimes you do need to like convert it, right? So if you need something to be converted from a PDF to an image, this is an easy way to also do that. Find and replace text. This also works. So if you have, for example, something that, say you want it to do, say you wanted to replace everything in checklist and replace it with to-do list. So just do find and replace. So if we find checklist and we want to replace it with to-do list, you can replace one or replace all, and it'll replace it for you. So this makes bulk editing really easy. And so then that way you're not constantly looking for the same things over and over. And formerly this was, only available in either Word or, Google Docs, but now there's a capability in Canva. So if you're editing all in one place, this makes it super easy to do your editing. And so, for example, if you were to come over here to the Magic Write, and then say every time there was the word design, you can also do the Command Find shortcut the same way you would in a Google or Microsoft document. So say you wanted to replace every word design with creative, and it'll highlight everything for you, and then replace all, and it'll do it all for you. And then obviously proofread to make sure the language sounds natural when you're reading it. Photo editing. This is another capability that typically was only available like on a Photoshop, where you had a design image, and we'll go through an Instagram post for an example, find something. I'll find something with an image, and then we'll replace my own image. Right? So this is my image. And then when you're clicking on it, if you hit edit photo, you can hit adjust, and then you're able to adjust the whole image, the foreground or the background. Say I wanted to adjust the background only, and then I can move this around. You can play around with tints, you can type with lighting, you can play around with contrast. Or if you say, you know what, I want to do the whole image and I want this to be a little brighter. Typically, this is something that, again, people that really love Photoshop or Lightroom were hesitant to do everything in Canva because there were capabilities that the other Adobe platforms have that Canva didn't. But now Canva has updated their photo editing capabilities. And then you're also able to still access all of the effects as well. So, if you wanted to, add your filters, whatever, you're still able to do that. But now up top is the adjust button. And they have the auto adjust, kind of like the auto filtering on like an iPhone or an Android. But say like you just wanted the background, you could do that as well. So that's a new capability. So if you have an image and you just want to kind of alter it, you don't have to use another platform. You can do it all in Canva. So easily add your logos. Have you ever used Canva and then you have your logo updated, but you can never seem to find it, right? Like you come into your uploads and you're scrolling and you're scrolling and you're scrolling, and where the heck is your logo? Well, now if you come down to this logo option right here, you can just automatically access your logos from your brand hub. So before you had to search for it in your uploads, and here is just super easy. And then you can add it wherever you want to add it. And so instead of going through and uploading and trying to find it and then inserting it into a presentation or a social media post or whatever. Now, if you just come down to logos, it will connect with your brand hub and you can easily add your logo to things, which makes it super nice. And then magic resize. See, here's an error. This is nice when you're, say like right here, you're creating this post, but you also want to create a presentation with this. You want to create a story. You want to create every asset that you need. So that way, before you could resize and you would come in and then you would enter your custom whatever, and then you had to resize one by one. Now you can come down and say, I would also, this is the story size, and I'm also going to link to the typical sizing so you know what everything is. And you say, but I also want my Facebook cover. We can make this a logo, and then let's do a presentation. And then also let's make this a brochure. So you can select everything that you want to resize into, and then you hit copy and resize everything. And this is part of the paid Canva. This is not available for free. And then you hit copy and resize, and it will take that first creative and it'll resize it into everything. So if you click through, you'll be able to see all the different sizes. So it makes creating really easy. So that way, say you created this and you're like, oh, that would be a great story. You could come through and say, okay, you made it a story. You made it, a Facebook cover template. You made it a logo, and then you can resize everything without having to manually go one by one and resize. So it just makes it super easy to create a ton of different content for different platforms. For example, like your Facebook cover photo is going to be different sizing than your LinkedIn or YouTube thumbnail. But if you want to keep that consistency and get that same thing over, and you don't want to constantly go and look up each size, you could just hit the resize button, come down here, and just see everything in one shot. And it makes it super easy to resize a bunch of things, like you see your YouTube channel logo, and then you can always just type in here if there was something you were looking for, and it'll have everything, check the box, and then copy and resize, and it does it for you. So that is the ending. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to stop share, and then anyone have any questions?
How did you select the brand colors? In other words, you put it into, you can use the same brand colors that you use consistently.
Great questions. So let me share my screen again. So when you are in Canva, on the home page, you want to come down to your brand hub. And this is part of the paid platform for Canva. And then you can go through and manually add, I had played around with the the SBDC for a previous presentation, and you go through and you add your own color palette and your own fonts. And that way, whenever you're creating something, your brand palette will pop up. So if you hit, for example, if you come over in your colors, your brand palettes will automatically pop up. So you're just clicking on things versus having to go through and type in your code for this. So I don't remember what the code for this is, but what is it? Right here. So say every time you wanted to like change it to this, before you would have to either enter in your code, or you would have to come here to this one and move your mouse around until you find it. But if you have your brand hub, like settled, then you just come here and it'll automatically click for you. So fix a photo that's blurry. So when you come down to edit photo and you hit adjust, that would be under sharpness. Well, you can't see because I have that filter on. Let's see if I can remove the filter. None. And then under sharpness. So say I wanted to, do you see how it kind of refines it a little bit? So that's how you would do it under sharpness. Clarity can also help. Sometimes if you go too far, it overdoes it, but just, play around with these. And then if you're like, oh man, I really went too far with this, just hit reset and it'll undo everything, because sometimes, I'm guilty of it too. You come in here and you start going, before you know it, your image is crazy and you can't remember what everything was. They kind of set it in the middle, but you just like start over. It's easy to start over. Any other questions? So part 1 is on the website, and if you reach out to Elena, she could send you a link to the part 1, but it's on the RISBDC website with previous recordings. All right, that wraps it up. If you have any questions, please reach out to Elena. She can either answer you, connect us, or send me your question and I can answer. Again, if you have any business needs, I encourage you to reach out and get in contact with a counselor. We have them in pretty much every field of business. We have a great team. Please use us. We love to serve. And if you have any questions or would like to connect one-on-one and talk about your marketing, reach out to Elena and she will connect us and we can do some one-on-one work. Thank you for your time and have a very happy Thursday.